Selamat sejahtera dan selamat sepupu.
As we know from the previous video,
Sorry is the hardest word to say, but some sorries are harder to say than others. Today I have a special one to share with you though, because sorry is what a Malay rights defender said to me. Sepupus, the other day, on my video about Anwar's immunity, Afiq Rosli comes in, hand swinging, declaration making, and before you know it, there he is, reading out his noble constitutional defense. As he goes, don't question the constitution. Only Bumiputras and Muslims can be Prime Minister. Accept it with an open heart. We studied this in school. Why do you need to complain? Now, I would love to go all like, wow, terima kasih Tuan Tanah. Except, at this point, I'm like, who told you that, Sepupu? That's completely not true. At which point, he starts going on this rant about how if you run a social media feed, then you need to be open to comments. You need to listen to what people are saying. You don't have the right to respond or some sort of BS like that. Alright, but let's be real, right? Is it likely that we'll have a non-Malay Prime Minister of Malaysia? No. Do I think that's going to change soon? No. Will there be a transformation in the social order and make it so that we are all muhibah and suddenly Anthony Loke is going to be elevated to our supreme leader?
Govind Singh Deo to Prime Minister number 2.
Nga Ko Ming will become the Malaysian Pope and Hannah Yeoh will become Minister of Muslim Affairs. No, there is not a birthday candles chance in the middle of the ocean that I think Malaysia is going to have a non-Malay Prime Minister anytime soon.
But
See, Sepupus, there's a very important distinction here between opinions and facts. You can't be going out there and just BSing about the constitution, saying all types of fake news that you want about the supreme law of our land. As far as I know, Article 43 of the Constitution says that the Yang di-Pertuan Agong appoints a PM who, in His Highness's opinion, commands the confidence of the majority of the members of the House. There's no actual mention of race, no actual mention of religion. Oh, and also, Wan Faisal actually made this full-on statement, somehow declaring that the constitution should be amended to limit the PM post only to Malays and Muslims, and that would somehow be more convincing to the Malays than anything that the Madani government could ever come up with.
so was Wan Faisal Delulu or what's going on?
If you are just sharing this with me without checking your facts or actually reading through the constitution, telling me what specific line tells you that a Malay or a Muslim has to hold the PM post, then that means that you are just BSing me. You're basically just being like one of those hundreds of people out there who are constantly terpaling terancam, terpaling victim, who every single time anybody does something that goes out of alignment with their values, then they always say, sedar diri, baca perlembagaan, read the constitution, when most likely these people can barely even read at all. So you know what? After a while, I was just like, I cannot. So when I made the post sharing about this situation, I had a very specific goal in mind. You cannot go out there and then either tell lies or spread falsehoods and slander about the constitution of Malaysia and then expect that somehow or another Malaysians are going to just kowtow, and you can basically use that as a, if you are not Malay then you shut up, you stop talking, you hormat Tuan Tanah. Because seriously, growing up as a non-Malay in Malaysia, I've seen that hinted in speeches spread hundreds of times across social media by people who can barely even read kindergarten books, let alone the Constitution of Malaysia. And before long, he crumbled. He goes and changes his entire YouTube username before finally saying, I'm sorry sir, I was making mistake about my statement. Hope to remove this post sir. Saya mengaku salah saya dan harap untuk berbaik saja. Saya tak mahu ada masalah dengan sesiapa akan datang. Saya dah delete semua komen saya yang tadi dan akan berhati-hati akan datang. Terima kasih. Now, Sepupus, I know that we had a Decide the Story poll where 63% of you voted for accept the apology. But I was kind of thinking about this whole thing here and how basically if I were to just go ahead and forgive straight out with no consequences at all, then that's exactly the kind of thing that's gonna normalize this sort sort of behavior in a world where it's already bad as it is? Should I accept this kind of stupid, chauvinistic, no brain, no reading, constitutional, halfway reasoning? And what I can say is, Amirul Afiq Rosli, I accept your apology. Sepupus, I have no idea whether this person actually means his apology or not, but I think that you know that when it comes to something like this, apologies are few and far between, they are rare. Now, that doesn't mean that I'll accept every single apology. No, definitely not. Some people are not sincere, other people apologize only because they got caught. If you're too lenient, too forgiving, people will walk all over you, and before you know it, the house, the farm, your entire bank account will be gone. But I think at the same time, for me personally, it's an area of growth for me to realize that yes, people can make mistakes, people can get things wrong, or just not know about certain things. In this case, I think it's important to accept the apology, but also to remember what Lee Kuan Yew once said.
I sometimes forgive, but seldom forget. Good night.
Now, I know that one part of what Mr. Amirul wanted was for me to not just forgive him but also delete this post, but I don't think that's acceptable. I think that this is one of those things whereby as a society we do have to make sure that people know about this idea of how people have distorted, manipulated, or just misunderstood the constitution throughout the course of time. And I think for that reason, this has to be something that people remember.
But as we ensure that we don't forget though,
I don't think that we want to become a vindictive society where every single time somebody does something wrong, we go out there and then we immediately just rule them out. I think that we have a lot to gain from actually being more bertimbang rasa and gentle to people, because sometimes people can really just not know, or maybe they were really caught in an environment where they were not taught anything, but somehow they are conditioned to somehow think that every single person is going to have to listen to them just because they have a certain skin color or certain race.
but still people will get this kind of thing wrong, whether intentionally or unintentionally.
Like, I think that we've seen all the while that we have already people going out and freaking out over the Jalur Gemilang and everything out there. That's not how you build a multiracial society. That's not how you build trust between the races. As a Malaysian citizen, I think it is clearly wrong to have the constitution and the truth about it, right, be commented on, people giving analyses of it when they haven't actually read it, and it's not something that you can just randomly throw around like that. But at the end of the day, I think forgiveness is for us as people. It's not for the other person, it's not mainly for their benefit, but rather for us and the kind of soul that we actually want. And in the same way that I would hope for other people to treat me that way, I want to extend that same thing to them. So this is me extending that forgiveness to you and saying thank you for coming out and apologizing, because not everybody would do that. Sepupus Amirul, kita tahu je yang kau dah buat salah, yang you dah salah tafsir apa yang tertulis dalam perlembagaan. In a perfect world, I'd like to just write this off as a mistake made by somebody with a repentful heart and who genuinely wants to change.
But while we can forgive, we must not forget.
And this is me saying that as long as you understand what you got wrong and you can explain it to other people, then hopefully this can be a learning experience for you to be a little bit more careful when you make statements on the internet. And that's especially true when you're going out there and you're using your real identity. Because nowadays, everybody can check everything that you say, everything that you write and think about. I mean, as a human being, I think that we should all be accountable for our words, rather than try to run away and hide and everything. So kudos to you for at least coming out and owning it like an anak jantan. Really appreciate it. I hope that you will have a second chance and that this won't impact your employment prospects or anything else. Thank you so much for doing the right thing. So who's out there, especially all of you non-Malays and people who might aspire for the highest office in the nation one day, not just me, but maybe people from even a future generation, I hope that you'll find it inside you to forgive him as well. We don't know really what's inside his heart, but it takes the bigger person to actually forgive along the way, and hopefully this video and the many other conversations that we're going to have in the days ahead are going to be the start of something a little bit better for our nation, and maybe a change as well in the way that we look at this country and look at ourselves. United we stand, divided we fall, and I do think that we need a little bit more forgiveness in our nation for the journey together.
But we cannot normalize certain things and we cannot forget them either.
It's going to be a long one, and we definitely do a lot better if we weren't all just trying to eat each other alive, and instead build just a little bit of empathy for one another, not only in our good moments, but also in our flaws. Alright, that's all to say about that, and bye.